Hi everyone, I'm back, and as promised, uh, I have here the background, the final product of the B. Wordsworth special banana walnut cake. I've given you the recipe yesterday, and unfortunately, we have advanced a lot, but not that I can cut a slice and sort of teleport a peace to you. But someday. But I hope some of you have tried this recipe, and I hope you've sort of shared it with your people at home. A good way to start off uh, B. Wordsworth. I mean, there's a definite reason why I'm doing it, right? V.S. Naipaul, we all know V.S. Naipaul. He was Indian by origin, but lived most of his life in the West Indies, and hence this entire concept of calypso and the banana boat song, which is my caller tune. And I'm not going to tell you much about V.S. Naipaul, except that it's some of his stories, most of his stories, why some, most of his stories do have some kind of a biographical aspect to it, and when you read B. Wordsworth, you will definitely find something that is going to trigger a memory from not such a distant past. But I'll come back to that. You will have to bear with me because I'm sort of going to juggle between two things, because I thought of taking a class with the difference. So from this banana walnut cake, I'm moving on to something which is going to be good for you. Uh, I thought of taking you all through this entire uh, port of Spain map. So I've got this entire map here. If you look at it very clearly, please focus on the map here. The entire map is here. I am sure you can see it. Okay, now something very interesting. You will find that there are certain places, and I really went into detail, and I did find a map. If you see right here, you will find Alberto Street. Alberto Street is a very important point of the story, right? And just to take you further, from this Alberto Street, we will have a movement that is going to take place. From Alberto Street, we will be moving down this road up here. This is the famous, for all those who are cricket lovers, Queen's Park Oval, and Brian Lara, Darren Ganga, Sunil Narayan, all famous West Indian cricketers are all from Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. And here we have Queen's Park Oval here. So from Alberto Street, we move down to Queen's Park Oval. We take St. Clair Avenue. Please mark these. If you have a pencil or pen with you, why don't you just write it down? Alberto Road. And as we move down, we come to St. Clair Avenue. And from there, we take the right turn. We come to the Queen's Royal Place here, to the Queen's Park Savannah. Yes, the Queen's Park Savannah is here. And if we climb up, we will reach the Queen's Hilltop there, right? So this will give you a fair idea about this entire layout of this town where the story of B. Wordsworth is set. Very important for us to know the setting. I always believe that you should know the setting, and that will help you to give an identity to the story, right? So remember what I first told you, Alberto Street, very important, we'll come to it. Down the road, if we walk, we reach St. Clair Avenue, yes, and then we move down Savannah Park, we move up to the Queen's Hilltop, and gives you the entire feel of this island, Port of Spain, the capital of Trinidad and Tobago, right? Yes. So you've got the setting of this story in place. This one little thing which I wanted to show you, and that's quite interesting, because in India we do have a lot of palm trees, but not the kind which grows in West Indies. That is the gru palm. If you see this, the gru palm tree. Now, what's so special about this gru palm tree? It's got spikes, and if you see the date palms here, you can see that the shape is slightly different than the kind of date palm that we have here. So this is the gru palm tree, the reference to which you will find in this story. You see, they're quite spiky also. You see it clearly, they're quite spiky. Yes, and lot of fibers here, and these are the date palms. And in context of the story, you can imagine this tree as quite a center of our introduction to the story. So the three things that I showed you, of course, one unrelated, but for me there is a very close relation. That is the banana walnut cake. Remember that image? Then, of course, the entire map of Port of Spain, Alberto Road, St. Clair Avenue, Queen's Park, Savannah. Remember these places. And then, of course, you have the Grugu palm tree, right? While I'm settling this projection down, how about getting the text? Please, all of you, if you have the text with you, it will really help. Yes, unlike poetry where we mark the lines, I would love you to have this text open in front of you. Page 116, whichever edition you have, I won't know. It's the last story in the collection, B. Wordsworth by V.S. Naipaul. Please get the text while I organize myself for this class. Right, I'm fine. I hope you are okay too. Here we are. A few images just to help us in this journey to understand B. Wordsworth and V.S. Naipaul. Right? You have the text with you? All right, here we go. Please take out the first page. I'm not going to read out the whole story for you, because I expect you to sort of read it out as and when we stop and then go through the details. I will take you through some of the important features independently, yes, and later on we will put them all together for a response to any kind of question that arises, right? I would also encourage you. I am there on I'm going to upload this on YouTube. So if you have any specific questions, please put it on the comment page. I will, and please put in your email ID as well. I will respond to you as and when I see any question of significance, even if it's not too significant. Just to quell your curiosity, I will respond to you. Right, I'm giving you time for you to get your textbooks. I'm sure you have it. All right, now if you take out the first page, very interesting. You might question that I showed you Alberto Street, I didn't show you Miguel Street, because that's the first place that's mentioned. Believe you me, students, I looked for it. There is, at this point in time, 2020, no street called Miguel Street in Port of Spain. Probably that street is lost forever. I didn't find it anywhere. I really went through, search for it. Yeah, it does not exist anymore. Probably it is known by another name, but I did not get a reference. Hence, sorry for that. All right. Now, in the very first paragraph, we are given a place, we are given a wonderful term called hospitable houses in Miguel Street. What do you mean by these hospitable houses? You know, at this point of time, the kind of world that we are living in, all of us are in kind of hospitable houses, in the sense we are in isolation. Yes, we are not allowing outsiders to come in. But in case there's somebody who is in need, our doors are open for help. We are ready to help anybody in need. So here we are talking about a hospitable house where people were kind. They're known to help anybody who needed support. So there are three beggars who would come every day to these hospitable houses on Miguel Street. And there's something very interesting in this. You have at 10 o'clock, you have the Indian coming in. Yes, Indian. Wearing that's the first beggar who comes in. And he's given a tin of rice. Exactly 2 hours later, at 12, there is an old woman. There's a gap of 2 hours, uh, everyone coming in. She would get a cent. Okay? Different ways that we help people. Then again, 2 hours later, at 2 o'clock, a blind man who's led by a boy, and then he would get his penny. So the way it's stated, it appears that this was quite a ritual sorry, that happened every day. 10, 12, 1. Rice, a cent, and a penny. That's how it happened, right? Sometimes they said we had a rogue. Now, what is a rogue here? I mean, a rogue here is not the kind of rogue that we use nowadays. I mean, unscrupulous person. It's a very archaic use of somebody who is a wandering beggar. He's called a rogue. Archaic use of the word. So, someday you might get some of these wandering beggars who just move about from one part of the country to another, and he would ask for food, he would be given a meal, but then he would ask for a cigarette, and then the family would light it for him, but he never came again. So what would you call such a person? Probably yes, that's why the use of the rogue in the modern terms is appropriate. Or we might call him an opportunist. Got the opportunity, fine, make use of it. Make hay while the sun shines. I'm in the right house, right place, so let me get some food, let me get my cigarette and move on. Okay. But we are not concerned with those people. These four have just been given us an introduction for us to understand the setting and how important it was for these houses and the way they tended to the people who came to their doorstep, right? Then the most important character of the story comes in. The first character that we introduce. I would not, I would call him a co-protagonist because there are two protagonists in this story. He's the first one, and he's a stranger. We open him out as a stranger in this story, as the author says. And it's such a coincidence. He also comes 2 hours later, at 4. It's a pattern, yes. At about 4 o'clock, yes. Now comes the second protagonist, the narrator, I, a little boy, yes, a little boy. So we mark this, a caller, the stranger who comes in, as a protagonist here. And I, the narrator, the little boy here, is the co-protagonist in the story. So at 4 o'clock, naturally he is not seen the others because he was in school. Yes. So at 4 o'clock he had come back from school, and he was relaxing at home. And this man comes up and makes a strange request. He said, "May I come into your yard? This little house with a little yard. May I come in?" Yes. Then the description of the man is very important. Please mark this out. Very important to know the details. A small man, A. B is tidily dressed. Yes. And he was in a kind of a uniform. If you look at it, white shirt, black trousers, and a hat. So, very simply but tidily dressed. A small man. Remember, that is important. Not huge, not alarming, not frightening. A small man, insignificant. Yes. So, and the other beggars would just wait at the gate and ask for the whatever was needed, and they would take it and leave. But this man wanted to come in. So naturally the curiosity, what would he want it for? An extremely strange answer. He says, "I want to watch your bees." Where were the bees? Remember the image of the gru palm trees? So that's where the bees had made their hive. Yes, rich source of honey. So they had 4 small palm trees, and they were full of uninvited bees. The best adjective for bees, apart from being uh, horribly painful, they are uninviting. I think that's the best adjective for bees. Bees are never inviting, except, okay, what they produce is so very inviting. So, uninvited bees, yes, had made their hive on the gru palm trees. So, his request was to come and watch the bees. Now, a simple question. I'm not asking for an answer, write it down. What kind of a person would want to come to your house to watch the bees? Is it a rhetoric question? Probably. But I want you to think of an answer. And probably at the end of the story, related to the kind of a person that we are talking about, right? Okay? So, now because it was a strange request and because it was a request for somebody to come into the house, naturally the little boy had to go in, and his mother was inside, and he asked for permission. He said, "Ma, there is somebody who wants to come in." Yes, and want to watch the bees. What do I do? Uh, Now, something very important. The mother comes out and asks him, "What do you want?" "I want to watch your bees," just to reassure herself. I mean, nobody has ever made such a strange request. "Are you sure you want to watch bees?" The next point is extremely important. The first sentence on the next page. Mark it out. His English was so good, it didn't sound natural, and I could see my mother was worried. Why? Was he like the normal beggar? No. He was tidy, neatly dressed, spoke distinctly, extremely articulate, correct in his speech, correct in his attire. He didn't look like the common, ordinary beggar. Yes, yes. So, mother must be wondering, does he have some other intention? Why is he here? Yes. Naturally, the suspicion. Yes. So, the suspicion leads to her saying the next sentence: "Stay here and watch him while he watches the bees. Warning: do not move away from the sight of him. Stay there, watch him. He watches the bees, you watch him, little boy. He should not be coming home to steal." Yeah. Don't know, suspicious, strange request. And the man, polite as ever, thanks the lady. "You have done a good deed for the day." Again, so correct, yes. Correctly, slowly, correctly. Underline those verbs here, yes. As though every word was costing him money. It was as if it was a kind of an effort, like a speech prepared, yes. So for an hour, it was not for 5 minutes, not for 10 minutes, for an hour. He just sat there and watched the bees on the gru palm trees. Yes. And what did he tell the little boy who was watching him? "I like watching bees." Now relate this to, come down to about 4 lines from there. "I can also watch ants and scorpions and centipedes and congories." So what are the different things that he likes watching? Bees, ants, scorpions, centipedes, congories. What are congories? Congories are those eels. Yes, they are found in warm waters. Yes. Now, why does he sit and watch? What is his? Is this his favorite pastime? Is he a naturalist? Does he study insects and reptiles? No. But the only thing, the first thought that came to my mind is somebody who just sits for hours and watches bees, ants, scorpions, centipedes. Apart from, like some of you may say, what a boring thing to do. It's also a study in patience, right? It also could be somebody who has nothing much to do, an extremely lonely existence. Just a thought. Again, remember, boys, these are just our first impression about this man that we are getting from the kind of exercise that he is doing, right? But it is definitely a study in patience. He's a very patient man. He's an extremely calm man. What he's doing is something that none of us would maybe like to do. I hope we don't get into a position in life that we have to spend hours looking at bees and ants from a distance. Yes, it reeks of loneliness, probably this entire sense of being, sense of solitude. Yes, that's what I do. I just watch, whiling away his time, just doing that. Uh, so he said, "Have you ever watched?" That's a question he asked. So the little boy, naturally, he goes to school, he studies, he comes home, he plays. So, when when a little boy hears this question, they immediate, like we are questioning, what do you do? If you see this typical West Indian English that you get here, what you does do, mister? Yeah, I don't have a Viv Richard kind of a accent. I'll try to work on it for the next class. Yes. What do you do? What is your work? Why do you just sit and watch bees and ants? What is the answer that he gets? I am a poet. I am a poet. What will you tell me next? Come on, come on. What will be your next line? Huh? No, I don't get it. You know what my next line will be? Well, I am a music maker. I'm a dreamer of dreams. I'm a poet. Right? So, do we have loneliness near desolate streams, if you remember? So, this very theme of isolation and loneliness that we found in We Are the Music Makers, again reflected by a stranger in this small little yard on Miguel Street, as he tells the boy, I am a poet. The innocence of the boy. Are you a good poet? Why do you think he asks that? If you're a good poet, then maybe I can spend some time doing poetry with you. Yes. And look at the simplicity of it. I'm going to put maybe a dichotomy here, probably. The greatest in the world, he says. Now, when he makes this kind of a grand statement, do you think it reeks of superiority, or is it an implicit simplicity in this statement? The greatest in the world, a hope, a dream, or is it negative superiority? Again, reach a conclusion after we complete the story. It's natural. What's your name? B. Wordsworth. Wow, rings a bell. Wordsworth. B for Bill? No. B for black. I have a brother who is the white Wordsworth. Now, there is a lot of, you'll say, wow, black, ooh, oops. Are we supposed to use this word? No. We are in West Indies. We are just brown. Yeah. I could say I'm B so much. I'm just a brown lady. Yeah. So it doesn't make any difference. But why do I say Bill is not wrong? Yes. Bill is, like we have pet names, shortened. You know what name is shortened to Bill? William. William is shortened to Bill. Yes, that's another thought for you. It could be black, yes, and white Wordsworth is the one living in England. Yes, he was fair-skinned, he was well known, so white, well known, famous poet Wordsworth. Yes, I'm insignificant. I'm Bill, the unknown factor. I'm a West Indian here in this part of the world. Yes, that Wordsworth was a successful poet. Yes, but I think I'm the greatest in the world, but I'm in the darkness. Nobody knows of me yet. Yes. But there is something very important in this line that he says. We share one heart. We are made of the same emotions. We dream of the same dreams. We make music. We write poetry. We have the same emotional makeup. We are poets. I can watch a small flower like the morning glory and cry because we feel the life in everything that we see around. We feel a oneness with the nature. Yes. So when he says that we look at a flower and have you got this? Sorry, have you got this about Bill and White and Black and William? Right. You can interpret it in any way you want. That's what I thought. Why not? You know what the boy asked? But why do you cry when you see a flower? I love to see a flower and I admire it, but I don't cry. He says, why, boy? Why? You're asking me, why do I cry? Because those are crying. Who are the people who cry? If I ask you, you'll say somebody who is weak? No. People could be strong and yet cry. Why? Somebody who feels for others are the ones who cry. Those who are stone-hearted do not cry easily. Yes? People who cry are the ones who have the heart in the right place. They feel for others. Yes. Now, I'm not making a generalization. It's just an observation based on the character in this story. Why? You will know when you grow up. Yes, you will know. Why do I cry when I see a flower? Yes. You're a poet too, you know. Why do you think he reaches this conclusion? What makes you think that the poet reaches the conclusion that you're a poet too, you know, and when you're a poet, you can cry for everything? I found, because you were asking me the right questions, I feel you are a poet. And when you grow up, those emotions of being a poet, because artists are emotional. You've read about it in music makers. So even when you grow up, you will realize that there is so much of warmth, so much of feeling, such deep thoughts. Because a simple morning glory is not just an ordinary flower. It tells us a story about how every morning, with the rays of the sun, it starts blooming. And when the sun sets, the petals droop in. Life ebbs out, very transitory. So when more thoughts come to your mind when you grow up, you will also cry when you look at a flower, because that flower is going to evoke other thoughts. And because every time I'm telling you I'm a poet, you're asking me what kind of a poet, and why do you cry because you see a morning glory? You're asking the right answer, so I know you are a poet. You have the heart in the right place, and that's why I'm sitting here talking to you. That's what the stranger tells the boy. Look at it, I couldn't laugh, because at that point in time for a young boy, God, it doesn't make sense. What is he talking about? Yes. Look at the next question he asks. Do you like your mother? Of course. Of course, when she's not beating me or not, she's not forcing me to have turnips and those cauliflowers and cabbages. I like her. So what does he do? He takes out a printed sheet of paper. He said, I've got a lovely poem written about mothers. You know what? I'll sell you at a bargain. 4 cents for it. Go, buy it and give it to your mother. Yes. So boy goes in, and what do you think his mother would have said? Rubbish! I'm not going to spend 4 cents on a poem for me. Go take it back. Yes, and tell him to leave immediately. But the The most important part of it is when the child comes back and tells B. Wordsworth, the stranger, for the first time, which is mentioned here. I said to B. Wordsworth. That's the first time it's mentioned here. I said, no, sorry. I mean, B. Wordsworth is mentioned earlier. Here, I said to B. Wordsworth. My mother says she ain't have 4 cents. What is his response? It is the poet's tragedy. Nobody values the work of a poet. Yes, that is our tragedy, and that's why I myself, the only one who believes that I am the greatest poet in the world, because nobody else has recognized my worth. Nobody values poetry. So what does he do? He puts the paper back in his pocket. Yes. But there was no anger. There was this sense of inevitability. I know my poems won't sell. So the boy says, I mean, aren't you doing something crazy? I mean, do you just go selling poetry around? And then he talks about Calypsonians, those folk musicians. It's a tradition in West Indies. These are the, like we have our baul singers here in Bengal. You have different kinds of the Sufi singers who sing about this, whatever they see life around. They make the song the spur of the moment. So similar to that are the Calypsonians in West Indies. So these are the kind of people who come to the town and they make their own music and the people pay for the music. They are the only ones. I've never heard of a poet who goes around selling poetry. Yes. Do people buy your poems? So what is the reply? What do you think is the reply? No one has yet bought a single copy. I've not sold any poem. Because poetry cannot be sold like that. Poetry is something which needs to be felt, yes. He said that if you've not sold, you still go around selling. He said, yes. And that gives me a chance to meet people. See, like I've come to meet you. If I wasn't wandering around selling my poetry, I wouldn't have met you, right? And I always hope to meet people like you, creative people, good people, open-minded people, thinkers. This gives me a chance. Yes. And the boy is so happy. You really think I am a poet? Yes. You are as good a poet as I am. Yes. And for the first time, you feel the way the boy has reacted, that somebody has made an impact on him. Probably he's not somebody who has been praised for anything that he has done, this little boy. Ordinary boy going to school, doing his work, coming back home, the daily routine. Nobody has ever told him that he's good for something. And for the first time, B. Wordsworth, a stranger, a poet, comes home to watch the bees on the gru palm trees. And what does he tell the little boy? You're as good a poet as I am. And that probably had the biggest impact, a praise, something that you're worth. So I prayed I would see him again. Very important line, next page. I prayed I would see him again. That very phrase tells us that this B. Wordsworth definitely made an impact. And it was only after a week later that he met him at the corner of Miguel Street. And we shall take up the story from here in the next class. So I would like you to go through this section. If you have any questions, do put it in the comment section, because the introduction part of it does take time. So I wanted to give a lot of time doing this part, and I hope you've got the entire landscape in mind, the little yard, the gru palm, and the two protagonists, co-protagonists. I, that is the little boy, not named. We will think of the name some point in time. And of course, B. Wordsworth, the the main poet in this, and that also the identity of B. Wordsworth would gradually be revealed in some point in time later on, and we can sort of, like I said, probably call it a kind of a biographical. So, would you call V.S. Naipaul as B. Wordsworth, or would you think B. Wordsworth or V.S. Naipaul is the little boy? You take a guess. Whatever you say, I'll go by it. But see that you give a right justification for your answer, right? I hope you enjoyed this class. I shall see you again very soon for the next lesson. Till then, take care, stay safe. Bye for now.